Yo, yo, yo. Give everybody a second to tap in. We had a little malfunction issue yesterday. I don't know what happened. I mean, good old Friday. I know that much. My Lakers looking decent without LeBron. I be reading the comments. I be seeing the comments saying like LeBron need to grab him and his son and lead the team or something like that. Like basically, he be hindering players from, you know what I mean, growing. You know what I mean? So, but I don't know. I ain't gonna fully just blame LeBron though. You know what I mean? Mike Palinka got to take some accountability. You don't never break up no team after they win a championship, whether it's the bubble or you know what I mean, or whatever. I mean, he bust that team up, so Rob Palinka got to take some accountability. We ain't just gonna blame LB. But y'all see what the title say. The Julio Foolio case, man. I've been watching it, and oh girl, boy, she cooked. I gotta keep it real. She cooked. Like, you know what I mean? It's just when you be see, I watch cases like Julio Foolio and like the old block and certain cases you gotta watch because if you like me and you like observe it and you smoke, you gotta watch cases like the Julio Foolio case and old block because it ain't so much as that you watching it to see somebody, you know what I mean, the outcome of it, what happened. It's more like, damn, they really surveillance, like they really, you know what I mean? Like they really king of YouTube. But yeah, you know what I mean? You got to really tell yourself, like when you see the Folio footage and all of that, you telling yourself, like, look, anybody who drive a Cybertruck or a Tesla or whatever, I'm not even trying to be nowhere near them. I don't even want to do a music video by them because once you see the footage, how it was just so HD with that case, man, you be like, damn, man, bro, like I don't even want to catch a Uber in a Tesla. You feel me? Maxi Boy 22 King. That's just sad. That's cyberbullying. Right, for sure. Right. But yeah, you know, you don't even want to catch no you don't want to do nothing by a Tesla or a Cybertruck, bro, for real. Cause that footage there was so HD. You know what I mean? The footage was better than a Chinese restaurant footage, bro, for real. You know what I mean? King of YouTube's to my he's sorry. You good. But we don't block people who, you know, we don't block that out, you know what I mean? You ain't gotta say sorry, you know. You came how you felt. You know what I mean? It's okay to feel how you felt. You know what I mean? Accept accountability like you did and move forward. But like I said, that case was just so crazy. Like even when you watch the footage of the O Block, how they had them boys leaving right from the hood all the way on the freeway downtown. And you gotta tell yourself when you watching this, like, damn, boy, like you really gotta walk light out here. You know what I mean? Cause like everything is literally being recorded. You know what I mean? So, you know, when you see that case and then you hear how much of a role she played in the case, you be telling yourself, you be like, dang, man, like, she ain't a good person, bro. You know what I mean? And some people say, well, who are you to judge? But hey, I'm not judging. I'm just going by the evidence and the ring, the doorbell footage and just the whole thing. It's like, damn, like, you know what I mean? Like, you really cooked. It's like, as an attorney, it's hard to win a case like that when they got so much video, audio evidence as far as nobody else but it's yourself. And then you laughing in the courtroom and stuff like that, smirking. You don't think the jurors see that? You know what I mean? You can't be doing all of that. That shows no mercy. So when it comes time for the judge to say his part, They gonna rewind all of that moment back and be like, you ain't have no mercy. You know what I mean? You laughing, you know what I mean? You ain't showing no, like you're not remorseful for your crime. You know what I mean? And then just imagine if they got all of that on her, on the Foolio case, then just imagine, I mean, y'all watch YouTube like me, you could, let's just be real, the stuff that they got on her, you telling yourself like, bro, she cooked, bro. You know what I mean? Like, they got too much audio evidence, you know what I mean? We ain't even talking about, you know what I mean, when they got on the freeway, how they had, tag readers and all of that, you know what I mean? So it's like, I'm just watching the case and it's just sad, man, that she played herself like that, you know what I mean? Because you weren't built for that, you know what I mean? People be getting themselves in situations that they think they built for, and then you realize, Tommy, what advice can you give me as a transracial man? I was born white, but I identify as a black man. Tommy, give me as a transracial man. I was born white, but I identify as black. The advice I can give you is accept who you either decided to be or either who you chose to be. There's no in between. You know what I mean? And once you accept those two gifts I just gave you, then you'll understand and you wouldn't have to ask that question. Once you accept anything that you step your foot in that mud in, you'll always be willing to be chest out and firm about anything you decide to stand business on. So me personally, if I was you, I'd tell you, be built for it tough. Don't be a Volkswagen. You know what I mean? So you'll be good. Baby killer, weed or cigarette. Oh, you already know. Try it. You know what I mean? You already know. We don't do no cigarette now. You know? No, try it. But yeah, Tommy. You know what I mean? Stand on business and, you know what I mean? Don't even really look at it as no that white, black type thing. You know what I mean? Brooklyn Purcell said, hi, what it do? You know what I mean? We're in here talking about that. Y'all seen the title, that Julio case, how, oh girl, you cooked. I gotta keep it blunt. You know what I mean? Like, you cooked, like you it's no chance for you, bro. You know what I mean? You might as well just tell them whatever plea bargain, because in order for you to want to go to trial, they must have came with a plea, and you like, I'm not even accepting that. You know what I mean? I'll take my chances going to trial. And then sometimes people do trial because you can come back on the pill better. Baby killer, yo man, good luck. Yeah, you already know, baby killer. Set that notification, dog, so we can stay tapped in, family. You already know. I like that name too. I'm gonna just call you BK for short because I don't want to keep saying that, you know what I mean? And then they try to flag me or something. But I appreciate you though. But yeah, I was watching that, and like I said, when you see the footage of how they, you know what I mean, you be like, damn, that shit, like, basically, if you seen the movie Heat, it was like in that form, you know what I mean? You like, damn, you know what I mean? It was, matter of fact, it was cleared in the movie Heat, you know what I mean? That's a Hollywood film, you know what I mean? So, and then, like I said, when you see the O Block footage, you know what I mean? You be like, you don't, they show individuals, but it wasn't clear like that Foolio footage, you know what I mean? I don't know, man. I just feel like sometimes, man, we be thinking we ready for something, and the whole time, man, you ain't ready for it until you step foot in it. You know what I mean? You can tell yourself all day, I'm built for this, I'm built for that. But once you get stripped away from, see, when you in the county, right, you looking out the window, so in your mind, it's still a chance of hope. You know what I mean? You might even have a few people who are accepting your calls on the streets, you know what I mean? So you still somewhat, even if you feel low, you still feel alive to a certain degree. But anybody who know the real, like once you get sentenced and then you come back to the county and you sitting in your cell and you look out the window and you telling yourself, damn, this is gonna be the last time I see the city for a while. You know what I mean? Reality kick in, dog, for real. You know what I mean? I don't care who you is. You know what I mean? You can be the top-notch villain. It don't matter. You know what I mean? Like, once you get that time and then you go back and it settle in, man, and you get that last look around, and then even when they put you on that van and you shackled up and you really get to look around and see like the McDonald's and certain all these different restaurants, and you get, you know, you might even see the block strip or whatever, you know what I mean? And after that, boy, you know what I mean? It's only a chosen few who may stick around, because a lot of people don't realize this. It's a such thing called out of sight, out of mind. You know what I mean? You know, some people be in good relationships, you know what I mean? And when you on the streets, but then, you know, you get locked up, that might be the downfall part of your relationship. And me personally, I feel like when it comes to a person getting locked up, I feel like you don't, like, I don't know. I'm the type, I'd rather a person just like basically just, I ain't, you know what I mean? You know, go do you type stuff. You know what I mean? Like, you know, it's on, I ain't finna force nobody to answer a phone. Truth be told, I might not even call. You know what I mean? I be on some introvert type time. You know what I mean? For real. So, but I know reality ain't kicked in. And then I think in the beginning, I thought she was supposed to be pregnant or something, the girl on the case. You know what I mean? So it's like reality don't hit you off the bat. Reality hit you when you get sentenced and then you leave the county. Cause like I say, long as you in the county, you still looking out the window. You still somewhat feel alive because you can see the city. You might even see looking out the window people who you know cars. You be like, oh damn, there goes such and such. You know what I mean? Oh, there goes such and such, and whatever and all that. But once you get sentenced and then they call your name to pack it up, and then you go downstairs and they shackle you up and they put you on that van and you taking that one good look like where you can be, oh dang, there go Chucky's tenders. There go, you know, you get your last few looks. Like I said, out of sight, out of mind. That's when you really see who is built for it tough and who ain't. You know what I mean? And a lot of people it don't realize. And then some people it might not hit them till they a few years in where they really realize that, damn man, I ain't even gonna go see the parole board until I got 20 years in. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? So hey, you know, reality hit people at different times and don't always be them crazy numbers that the judge throw out there at first. You know what I mean? And a lot of people end up joining something in the system called appeal call line. Anybody who know what I'm talking about, they got them in the counties too, where you see dudes who, or women or whoever, they like to try to pop with any type of strong pill that they got inside the county jail to take their mind off of the time they facing or whatever time they doing. You know what I mean? So some people do their time different. You know what I mean? You know, and some people make it hard on themselves. But I know in the time we living in, when they got this much evidence against you, I mean, some people say, nah, I ain't taking no deal because the deal's still gonna be 20 or more, or you know what I mean? Put it this way, if I'm in her situation, I'd rather just took the 20 than boxing it up, because it's like, bruh, they got too much evidence on you. You know what I mean? Like, me, if I'm going through a situation like that and I'm like in the courtroom, I'm looking at my situation, I'm in my mind like, bro, I'm cooked, bro, for real. You know what I mean? I'm really just doing this to blow time and try to really get my mind processed that I ain't finna see daylight for a long time. You know what I mean? And then, you know, my thing be this. If you already doing a stretch, whether it's 10, 15, 20, you already doing it though. Okay, you already doing it. But like at this tender year we in now, 2025, dog, it's too late to be hearing about you. Oh yeah, man, you heard such and such. Yeah, man, they just say he just called 40. You what? Like what? Come on, bro. Oh, he just called 12. Nobody is saying uh put other people in the line of fire to get them off the street. We just saying if you out there doing crash out activities or whatever, and you catching bogus time, bro, it's too late for all of that, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you know, and then, you know, we always say this when we get in certain situations that Only thing that matter to me is my kids, but it's like the actions that we show on the streets, those are not actions of I'm just a good father. I'm there for my kids. I got to, you know what I mean? Because we gotta take accountability and say, you know what, man, I could have went about that a different way. You know what I mean? I didn't have to go do what I did to lead me in here. You know what I mean? And that all comes with growth. You know what I mean? Like sometimes it takes for you to have to be on pause because it might save your life for real. You know what I mean? You out here thugging, drugging. You know what I mean? Really, like Ja Rule say, living it up like the song. And sometimes the only thing that's gonna put you on pause is you sitting down. You know what I mean? The thing is for how long though? You know what I mean? Because we all gonna make mistakes. You know what I mean? But some mistakes are deeper than others, and you just can't recover from them. Some mistakes you can recover from. You know what I mean? So, like I say, it's okay to make mistakes, but you don't want to make deep mistakes where you just can't recover from. You know what I mean? Like I say, it's too late in the 2000s to be talking about, such and such Alex, man. Yeah, man, they say, man, yeah, man, they say that she don't get out now 2075. Like, the way things going now, man, we better hope the world even around. You know what I mean? So it's like you want to change and take accountability and say, you know what? That route I went, I shouldn't even did that. You know what I mean? Sometimes you got to find people who that'll motivate you into a certain direction. You know what I mean? You might tell yourself, man, when I get out, man, or whatever, I'm going to do movies. I'm going to, you know what I mean? I ain't got to act in them. I'm going to like put the bag up. I'm going to go a whole different type of route now. You know what I mean? Because sometimes it may take you a couple of times to fully grasp and understand life that like, for many years, I was tricked, man. I thought this was the only way I had to get money. And once you really grow and your mind is at peace mentally, you will understand and look back and say, a lot of stuff I did was self-reflected. You know what I mean? Like, I can't blame nobody else for my actions. You know what I mean? Like, that was all me. You know what I mean? And once you realize that, you know what I mean? And you really put that effort in, because I ain't gonna cap. You know what I mean? Like, to me, Facebook easy to gain attraction from. You know what I mean? Me, I respect people who take the YouTube grind like me, because you know why? The YouTube grind is not an easy grind. You know what I mean? People think that it's just, oh, okay, I'm going to just upload some videos and whoop-de-whoop-de-whoop, and gain some attraction. Okay, you may gain some views, but you know what I mean? Like, you really got to put in work. And some people put in a lot of overdrive work, like they make this their life. I'm one of them dudes, you know what I mean? I ain't gonna make something like this my life, you know what I mean? Like I say, I do this in my off time, you know what I mean? And I ain't create no brand to destroy. Mine is more of a peaceful brand, you know what I mean? If you indulge in tribe activities, meaning the peace pipe, you know what I mean? Hey, you know what I mean? Power to you know what I mean? If you're a normal person who come in my shit, I mean, for motivation or whatever, I'm here for you. But other than that, it's too late in the 2000s for us to be getting caught up catching outrageous time until we don't come home till 3072. You know what I mean? So mistakes are cool, but let's make mistakes that we can recover from. You know what I mean? And you know what I mean? We're gonna move on from that Foolio situation. Like I said, we need to watch stuff like that. Like that trial, even though the old block, even though all that's old, what recently happened with Zoo, just everything that we see, whether it's Vaughn, anything you ever see that's on video, you really need to be sent back like, damn, like that's really crazy, you know what I mean? Because, you know what I mean, that's just crazy, man, And that's why people who claim and promote that they really in the streets, you shouldn't make people who got a 9 to 5 feel bad, because the people who been knew that the 9 to 5 was winning, they been winning. Okay, so what? A person with a 9 to 5 might not always, and I didn't say they can't, they might not always be on Facebook, you know what I mean, able to duffel bag or whatever, you know what I mean? Because they live in reality. They know it ain't about me up in a duffel bag. They live in a real world where they know I got real responsibilities. And I don't care about upholding no image. You know what I mean? So, you know they good. You know what I mean? They don't need to be verified by the internet. You know what I mean? The internet streets. You know what I mean? They know, okay, I'm good. I ain't got to be doing all of that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Acting like this a rat contest or something like that. You know what I mean? Who got the most racks? Who could up this? Who could up that? You know what I mean? So, but hey, everybody grow different. You know what I mean? Some grow and some don't never grow. You know what I mean? Just because you 62, that don't mean you act 62. You know what I mean? You got some dudes who still feel like they might bend a block and spin a corner or somebody make them jump out there. You know what I mean? So my whole thing is a lot of experiences in life I learned for myself. You know what I mean? Like the best teacher is your own experiences. You know what I mean? You being young, you being rebellious. You know what I mean? You got to learn from all of that. You know what I mean? You got to look back and be like, damn, and take accountability and be like, damn, um, I could have went about that a completely different. You know what I mean? Trey King, what we smoking on today, bro? You already know. I'm about to show you. You know you my nigga. That Tribe brand. You know what I mean? Gumbo mix, Tribe. You already know. Never no tobacco. You know, we don't promote cigarette. We don't promote tobacco over here. Anytime you see me on my channel and some smoke coming out, is always Marley. But like I said, I use my own experiences. You know what I mean? Like as far as things that I've been through. You know what I mean? I done been rich, middle, and then tapped out. You know what I mean? Well, I got to regroup and take some time and zone out and figure out some shit. You know what I mean? And there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? I feel like anything that's like bad, it's a difference between bad and terrible. But anything that's bad, you should embrace it and love every minute of it and every moment of it because you gotta know and tell yourself you finna shake up out this moment and it don't last forever. It just really take self-discipline. You know what I mean? That's one thing that everybody, like back in the day, like how you would stick a drawn picture on a refrigerator and be like, and everybody be like, oh, who drew that? And then they'd be like, oh, such and such. We need to put imaginary words, self-discipline, you know what I mean? And master it, self-discipline. You know what I mean? If you really master self-discipline, nothing can fade you. You know what I mean? As far as, I mean, the wind gonna blow, but it's just gonna blow. You know what I mean? Once you master it, anybody who try to bring you into a situation that's just not healthy, you gonna curve it. You know what I mean? And it don't mean a relationship. We mean it like false friendships, false hope, false anything false. You know what I mean? You gonna curve it. You know what I mean? Before it even get to that, you ain't even go explain why you curved them. You know what I mean? And why you curved it. You feel me? You know what I mean? See me, I move better solo. Don't get me wrong, I got people I love, but as far as move, I operate better solo. You know what I mean? And me, there's nothing wrong with that. You know what I mean? I'm my own everything. You know what I mean? I'm my own staff. I'm my own promotion team. You know what I mean? Like I'm literally my own everything. You know what I mean? If I mail you something or you know what I mean, that came from me. You know what I mean? I didn't send nobody to do it or nothing like that. You know what I mean? So you really gotta when you doing this, you really got to get it out the grind. As far as on, you got to be willing to take L's. You know what I mean? You ain't gonna always charge everybody for your merch. You know what I mean? Some stuff you gonna give it out. You know what I mean? Because you know you want people to post or You know what I mean? You don't got to tag me in it. I ain't one of them type of dudes where you got to have a shirt for me and tag me in it. Like, nah, but, you gon' you know, you just got to create some type of action. You know what I mean? Because a job in this ain't 1993. That ain't just gonna cut it. You got to be either selling real sandwiches, uh, I don't know, game control or something. I don't know, something. You got to be doing something. You know what I mean? We living in a time ain't nobody really got no mercy for nobody unless you a kid. You know what I mean? And like I say, I come from my upbringing. You know what I mean? I got good parents. You know what I mean? So the routes I took, those were self-inflicted routes. You know what I mean? A lot of us need to stop blaming our parents or whatever for, our ways. You know what I mean? A parent is a parent. They can only be a good parent, you know what I mean? Or be a bad parent. But if you got good parents and you still active and you doing active stuff and they don't really know, they only know what you present to them, that ain't bad parenting, you know what I mean? They only going off of the police coming to the spot and she like, well, I just saw him in his room. I don't know what, he couldn't have done that, you know what I mean? Reality, you snuck through a window or you played like you was out in the front yard or somewhere or whatever, close by, you know what I mean? So it's like a lot of times we need to take accountability, you know what I mean, and be like, dang, man, you know what I mean? I was, out of hand, you know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that, you know what I mean? You'll actually find peace within yourself if you just take accountability in a lot of situations, you know what I mean? Like so many people love to play the blame game, you know what I mean? Like they be loving to play the blame game, bro. You know what I mean? Like no accountability. Like you ain't gonna take no accountability whatsoever. Like dang. So what's ain't in somebody ain't gonna be in them. You can't force it in them. You know what I mean? It don't matter how much you try to pound it in a person. You cannot force something that ain't in them to be in them. You know what I mean? So now it's like you got to really look at it like, okay, how long do I babysit this grown adult? Because I got to move forward. Sometimes you dealing with a lot of dead weight can make you be dead weight to yourself. Meaning like you always buying this person a Checkers meal. That add up. You always, and you notice you the one always jumping out the window. But then when they get they payday from taxes or whatever, all of a sudden they just an accountant now. Like every dollar matters now. Like, but when it was your money, you know what I mean? It was like unlimited. You know what I mean? Like, you ain't even got to get a Checkers $4 meal. You know what I mean? Get you another one. You know what I mean? Y'all blowing good Doja. You know what I mean? You go to a chick spot, you taking your partner with you and telling them whoever there, like, have somebody for, you laying the carpet out. But then next thing you know, as soon as they hit a scratch off or they come up, next thing you know, they accountability, they are amazing count with their money. Like all of a sudden now, oh, I got 6,500. And then you be like, okay, so let's basically continue the same energy when it was my money. You know what I mean? When it was my money, you know what I mean? It was like, okay, let's get a bottle, let's da 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 da. But now you done got your bread. You know what I mean? Now you sharp as iron. You know what I mean? Oh no, oh no black teas today. Oh no. But when I had the bread, it was black teas every other day. You know what I mean? We blowing. You know what I mean? Damn near onion a day. You know what I mean? So maybe that. You know what I mean? So we always gotta be observant and fall back and say, you know what? I ain't finna no longer be the cash cow to nobody. You know what I mean? People will hang out with you because they know you smoke unlimitedly. Like, oh, he got at least 10 blunts for every blunt on the hour. You know what I mean? This person gonna hang out with you. Got the bottle. What's the name? Got the bank card. You know what I mean? Like people will find ways to finesse to hang out with you. That's the same thing as somebody stealing $20 from you and you sat it on your table and then they help you look for it. You know what I mean? Straight scumbag activity. You know what I mean? So we don't do scumbag activity. So we all got to just really be cautious and like I say, really just pay attention because like I told you, I was watching the Foolio case and it's like it's just so HD, you know what I mean? And it spoke me to the point where, like, if you got a Tesla or a Cybertruck or something like that, I don't even want to be nowhere near you. Matter of fact, even if I was to be going in a restaurant and I seen one outside, I don't even want to even go there no more. And they everywhere too. It's like, you notice, like, when you either got a car or a car you don't like, you see them everywhere. Dixie Myers, what's up, fool? What it do, family? So, but you ever notice when it's a car you either got or you don't like, you see it everywhere. And I don't like Teslas or Cybertrucks, you know what I mean? I don't. They too police. They basically squad cars. And if you got them, to me, you ain't stunting on them. You know what I mean? That's really top flight security because of the stuff. I mean, like I say, it's HD. You know what I mean? I ain't even got to stress it to you. You know what I mean? It's HD. You seen you know what I mean? The Julio Foolio case. You know what I mean? Them boys was really slanging out. You know what I mean? And I mean, the quality was better than Paramount. You know what I mean? So, I appreciate my homie Dixon who tapped in. He said, "Sup, fool." I appreciate everybody who hit that like button. You know what I mean? Remember, we all about fitness, hip hop, fashion, you know what I mean, and mental health. You know what I mean? It's right here, pre-workout. You know what I mean? If you need any type of, booster, you know what I mean? This is to do it. 60 capsules, you know what I mean? Results. You will see results. You see that. What that say? 7 days, literally. And we ain't talking about you got to lift no weights or nothing like that. You know what I mean? You ain't got to be, you know what I mean? You might walk, you know what I mean? Jog, you know what I mean? Play basketball or whatever. Pre-workout, you need a booster with, besides some music, good music going. I recommend this product right here. You know what I mean? Like I say, if you're really serious, website under construction, still tap the DM, you know what I mean? Your boy, you know what I mean? I'll make sure it get to you. You know what I mean? And like I say, yeah, man, just, walk real light, man. Be careful. And keep in mind, you know what I mean? This ain't 1936, you know what I mean? Even when you think you're not being seen or watched, you are. You know what I mean? So, all the stuff we see on the internet that be footage that we be like, dang, or whatever, take heed to that, you know what I mean? Don't be blind to that, you know what I mean? That's game, you know what I mean? And in order to learn game, you got to recognize game, you know what I mean? And let's not be naive, you know what I mean? So, you already know, man, like I say, the brand, you already know we got 420 Club members, you know what I mean? 420 Club, you already know we already got that. So, like I say, hold it down, stay blessed, try TV. I appreciate everybody tapping in. Y'all already know, hold it down. You know what I mean? If you ain't got a bag, hopefully you planning and plotting somewhere in the living room with one rolled up, strategizing on how can you get a bag. You know what I mean? And like I always say before I end it, find something you really like that draws your interest and just roll with it. That's all you got to do. It's really, I know some people say, man, it sounds simple. No, like, if you really just like find something like, no, like I really like this, and you roll with just one, if it's one box of crayons turn into 2 box of crayons, then 3, 4, 5, 6, you know what I mean? So just really tap in and find what you really like to do and just roll with it. It's really not that hard. Okay, it's gonna be a rocky start. We all know that, you know what I mean? And it's gonna be slow. So what? You know what I mean? But it reminded me of something that the dude I Show Speed said. He said he started out with 1 viewer, and then he just kept grinding. That 1 viewer turned into 2 viewers and 3, and then the rest was history, man. So don't never be ashamed to start from the bottom, because that's the only way you're gonna get to the top. You know what I mean? And enjoy the top, because you're gonna remember what the bottom feel like. You know what I mean? So like I say, man, one thing can turn into it's just got to be something that draws your interest for real. You know what I mean? That'll keep you interested and keep you like, okay, when I get off or when I got time, I'm finna go do this right here. I'm gonna go film, edit, or I'm gonna go do this. You know what I mean? So just keep in mind, just really sit back and just say, I really need to zone in and focus on what I really like to do. You know what I mean? If you like to fish film the videos, get you some good R&B, you know, Anita Baker or something like that, and film it. Y'all hit that like button too, man. Don't, you know, show love. But yeah, man, you know what I mean? You whatever, just anything you like to do, just roll with it. And I'm telling you, it's gonna bring inner peace to yourself. You know what I mean? You're gonna be like, damn, I should have been doing this. You know what I mean? But it's all about timing. You know what I mean? So, you know, I'm about to fall back. You know what I mean? Like me, I got some unlimited Tribe Culture jackets that's I'm finna drop. You know what I mean? When I say pressure, I want to reveal, but I'm gonna hold it in. You know what I mean? But I got a limited edition. You know what I mean? Or some Tribe jackets. You know what I mean? That is finna drop. You know what I mean? And I ain't even got to say no more. Like I say, y'all will see the model of the jackets up in a couple days. Go to my YouTube, subscribe. You know what I mean? Go to my YouTube shorts, check out my videos. Like I say, I got an interview that I keep saying that's coming soon, that is gonna be coming soon, you know what I mean? And go to my YouTube post, you know what I mean? Check my updates, you know what I mean? For we hip hop, sports, fashion, you know what I mean? And fitness, you know what I mean? So, you know, let's grow together. You know what I mean? Until then, you already know, like I say, man, pre-workout, need a little motivation, testosterone booster, 60 caps, you know what I mean? Results in 7 days. Tap the DM. I'll let you know more about it. Remember, shout out to my 420 Club members. You know how we do. Tribe TV. Tap in with y'all tomorrow. Love.